All right, welcome. So in this video, we're going to break down spin selling, what exactly it is, how you can use it, how it's going to help you to sell. One of the best books there is, one of the best methods there is on high ticket sales. So selling something for a decent price. So in this video, we're going to break it down, look at all the different parts, and then see how it works. All right, so welcome to this video on spin selling. I'm going to break it down in a lot of detail. Probably not going to be the shortest video on YouTube, but it is going to be the video where you walk away understanding what spin selling is, how to use it, how to make some big sales using the spin selling strategy. So there's a lot of different things to cover with spin. I'm going to break it down in the sections. By the end of this video, you'll have a really clear idea of how to use it. The first thing about spin that you got to know is that it's based on 35,000 sales calls. So when you look at any sales system out there or a sales theory, a lot of the time it's one person who tried something and they're letting you know what they did. With spin selling, it's based on a lot of different services, a lot of different products sold at a high price point, a lot of different salespeople. And this is common ground that all the successful sales calls used to close those sales. So really, really cool. I think it's probably the most studied and proven sales system that there is. So a really cool thing about spin is it's a specific method for high price sales. So selling something at a high price. If you're currently selling a certain service or product at a low price and you want to move up to offering that at a much higher price, spin selling is a really effective method to start making those sales calls, to start having an actual game plan when it comes time to talking to potential customers. This is something that helped me a lot in the past. For quite a long time, I was stuck at $200, $300 sales for websites, which is my own service. Spin selling is one of those things that really helped me to move up to $10,000, $20,000 sales. So I really love spin selling. Let's get into how it works, what it all means. Okay, so for when you start spin selling, a really important thing to know is where it goes into your sales process. And I've broken this down for this video into 3 general stages of closing a sale. You have the first part, which is creating the sale. So this is you go out there into the marketplace and you find potential people to sell to. So maybe a warm lead, maybe a referral, maybe you have some sort of incoming marketing, maybe you're doing cold prospecting. Now, spin selling doesn't cover this stage of the sales process. It's up to you how you find your customers. With spin selling, it's not going to show you that stage of creating the sale. What it is going to show you though is in between these 2 stages, between finding people to sell to and closing the sale, your pricing, what you're going to do, how the project's going to work. In the middle here with a high price sale, you got to have, hopefully you can see the bottom, you got to have a sales conversation. And this is a crucial part of high ticket selling, high price selling is there's always going to be, it could be one, it could be several, but in-depth conversations where you talk to the customer, you figure out what's going on with their business, what their problems are, what their needs are, and then you come up with a solution together to best suit what's going to be best for them. This is where you use spin selling. It's in the middle between creating the sale and closing the sale. During this conversational stage, this is where spin selling comes in and where it's really going to be highly effective. All right, so before we jump into the actual spin selling method, I want to show you the difference between little no consequence sales and high consequence sales. What happens here is a lot of us know how to sell at this price point, little no consequence, but when we use those same techniques, those same methods, the same approach that has been working up here, and we try to use it for high consequence sales, it just doesn't work. Spin selling is for high consequence sales. It isn't for little no consequence sales. So what exactly is the difference between these 2 different types of sales? Little no consequence sales are something that doesn't matter too much for the customer. And if they make the wrong decision, it's not going to be the end of the world. So imagine you go into a store to buy a pair of jeans, or you're buying a pair of jeans online. You pick out your size, you pick out your color, you like the particular style, you go ahead and you order. Now, if those pair of jeans aren't perfect, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to lose your life. You're not going to lose your business. It's not going to be game over. So that sort of sale is a little no consequence sale. When someone comes to you and you're a jean salesperson, it's pretty easy in a way to sell that sort of stuff because someone's come to you, they know what they want. You just have to show them kind of the selection, you show them the features, and you wrap up that sale. With high consequence sales, it's very, very different. This is something that has real impact if the person makes the wrong decision. And to give an example of this, let's say having an operation. You go into a doctor, you are not feeling well, and you're discussing maybe going ahead with a life-changing operation. That is something that you're not going to decide in 2-3 minutes. That is something that you're going to think about. You're going to ask questions. You're going to need certain information. You want to know that that's the right decision. Now apply that same logic to a business. When we're selling a service, high consequence sales are when our product has a real impact on the business. But if it's done incorrect, if it's done the wrong way, it's going to have a huge negative impact on the business. It could mess up their whole sales system. It could turn away a bunch of potential customers. It could do some real damage. For these sort of sales, we have to use the spin selling method, and it's really, really effective at making the customer feel secure, making them feel confident, making them really feel that this is the right decision for them, how it's going to work, what problems it's going to solve, what value it's going to create. So if you've been at this stage so far and you've been using certain methods, it's good that you have the experience, but you're really going to have to switch up your game to move to these high consequence sales. All right, so we're jumping into the actual spin method. What you might not have known, or maybe you did, was spin selling stands for 4 different types of questions. The 4 types are S for situational, P for problem, I for implication, and N for need payoff. We'll get into exactly what these are, how it works in detail in a few moments. The first thing that I want to cover is why we're asking questions in the first place. All right, so to understand why we're asking so many questions with one of these big sales, let's go back to the difference between low consequence sales and high consequence sales. For a low consequence sale, it's not a big deal for the person buying. They do want this, but again, it's not going to be the end of the world if they make the wrong decision. So usually with a sale like that, people come to you, they want the product or the service, and you have kind of a polished sales pitch. You know in general what they're after. It's a pretty specific service or product. So you go through your sales pitch, you give them the features, the benefits, you talk about the great price point, how it's going to help them. They have 1 or 2 questions, and for the most part, it follows a pretty consistent path towards a sale or towards a no sale. With a high consequence sale where we're going to need spin selling, that is definitely not the case. And why it changes is because things are much more complex. This is a high risk sale for the person buying, and they need to know it's the right solution for them. For us to just guess and to just give a generic sales pitch is not going to be effective. We got to get information. We got to understand what this business does, how exactly they do it, who do they serve, who their customers are, what are their problems, what's holding them back, what's going to help them sell, what's the value, potential value if we're able to solve this situation and improve their business. Now, for us to guess that stuff, we could guess. Maybe we dealt with a similar business in the past. It's not a good strategy because a lot of the time we're not going to be correct, and we're pushing something on them that's at a high price point, at a high consequence, without having the right information. It's not the way to do it. We got to get the information. So how do you get information? We don't know it, or we know very little at this stage. We got to go through a series of questions. And that is what spin selling is. It's the right order and the right sort of questions to get the information that we need to have a very good chance, or the best chance possible, at making a sale. So let's get into the actual questions. I hope the first part of this makes sense, that you understand why we're asking questions in the first place and why it's so important to ask these questions if we want to have the best chance possible to close this deal, to close this project, or whatever it is. So let's get into the first question. All right, so the first sort of question is situation question. I like to think of these as context. So before we jump into the more complex style of questions, all we're going to do is first figure out what is going on with this business. And that makes sense. We want to have good intel before we start getting into the specifics of how we can help, what problems they might have. So what we're going to do in this first stage with situational questions is just very quickly, because we don't want to waste too much time in this stage. It's not going to help us sell directly, but it is something that we need to know before we go ahead. We want to figure out the who, what, why of this business. Who are they selling to? What do they do? What's their main value point? What's the current situation? How do they currently sell? How do they feel about their sales system? How many employees? All this sort of stuff. The thing is, these sort of questions are pretty boring for the potential customer to answer. It's just them listing off information. They don't see so much value in this so far. So this stage, we have to keep pretty fast. And if you can, it makes sense to research the business beforehand and only ask questions that are leading towards a sale and that you really do want the information about. If I'm selling a website, does it really matter how many employees they have? Not so much. What I want to focus on in that example is, okay, where are you getting your sales from right now? How's the website performing at the moment? What's your typical sales process from start to finish? How many visitors are you getting a month? Those things are good questions for me to start figuring out the situation of what is going on with this business, understanding the context, understanding what it is. And if you think about, visual analogy, what you're doing here is you're mapping out the business. You're looking at what is there before you jump in further. So that is situational questions. I'll put some examples in the description of this video, but basically the first stage of this is just getting the right information and understanding what this business is, how they do it, who they serve, what their product or service is, and what's going on at the moment. You got to do it kind of fast, but this is where you got to start. All right, so the next stage of this is problems. I hope you're enjoying my sketches. If you are, smash that like button. So what we've done in this first stage is we've figured out the situation of the business. We understand the context, what they do, how they do it, who they help, and so on. What we're now going to start doing is getting information that's going to help us sell. This information doesn't help us sell. If we know this stuff about the business, who cares? The owner, that's not going to motivate them whatsoever. What we need to start doing is finding problems that are painful enough that the potential customer might pay or hopefully pays to resolve those problems. So once you know what's going on with the business and you have an idea of who their customers are, how it works, what they sell, in my case, I sell websites, so what's going on with the website, how the sales process works, we start looking for potential problems. So we go from general situational questions like, what exactly do you sell, to, okay, when you guys are selling to your customers, how do you feel your communication is? Do you feel like it could be better, or do you feel like it's on point? Do you think that customers understand how much potential value that you have to offer? What I'm doing here is I'm fishing for problems. So I don't say, hey, you guys got a problem, I can see you have a problem. I start asking them because I want the information to come from their side first. And what I'm going to do is, for my particular service websites, I'm going to go through all the areas that I would like to cover for potential problems and just see what's there on the surface level. So do you have a problem communicating with your potential customers? Do you have a problem with your sales process and the information that helps people make a buying decision? Do you have a problem with the sales process in regards to, someone comes in, do they book, do they send an email, do they go ahead and reserve a sales call from a sales rep, this sort of stuff? How's the website performing? Any issues there? Do you feel good about the design? Any sort of problems? How's the general sales system? I'm basically looking for problems, and I'm getting the customer, hopefully, to state that they have some issues in some of these areas. Now, to be honest, nearly every business has an issue with their sales stuff. They always want more sales, they want more customers, they want more projects, or whatever it is that they do. So all I got to do in this stage with problems is ask good fishing questions. And I'm not, at this stage, all I'm doing is looking for the start of these problems. And it's going to lead into the next stage, which is implications. But what we do, to quickly recap, first get the general idea of what is going on in this business, the context, the situation, then start going through all the different areas that you think hold potential for what it is that you offer. Again, I sell websites. I want to focus on the areas that hopefully a website could help fix. There's no point me asking them, hey, how big's your car park? You got enough parking spaces for your staff? I don't sell car parks, I sell websites. So you gotta be specific to what it is that you offer when you're looking for problems. If it's not a problem you can't fix, don't focus on that. It sucks for the business owner, but it's not something you can help them with. You gotta focus on the areas where you can potentially add value. That brings us into the next question. All right, so in the problem stage, hopefully we incur at least one and hopefully several problems on the surface that we can see that the client already has. Now, in that last example with the problem section, I was focusing on maybe they have a problem communicating with their clients. So what I'm going to do, and I'll actually do this for all the different problems that they have, but this is just to give an example of one. What I would do if the client mentions, yeah, actually we kind of do have a problem with the clients right now. There's certain services that we have that people don't realize we offer. There's certain great projects we've done in the past that they're just not aware of. And I just feel like the text on the website could maybe be better. And when people, when we get a sales call, a lot of the time, the customers don't really exactly know what it is that we do and what we offer and, how much we can help them. So basically, what a lot of people do at that stage, someone with not that much sales experience, is they think, great, these people have a problem, and they go straight from that point to, well, you know what I could do? I could make you a new website and I could put in great content and we could solve all those problems. The mistake with doing that is this. If you jump in at this stage, when you just have the small initial problem, so they have a problem communicating with their clients, you have a problem this big on the potential client's radar, they see the problem this big. So the only amount of money that you can charge is also this big. So this is your money. What we need to do before we get to pricing our services, if we want to make a big sale, is turn this problem, and this is how they perceive it, into this size. And hopefully this is made up of quite a lot of several problems that are all really painful for the client. And why we're doing this is they see, whoa, this is actually way worse than I thought. It's really hurting the business. So it is worth not spending this amount, it's worth spending this amount. And this is a huge difference between people who sell at a low price point and who sell at a big price point, is they jump in too early with a solution. They see that the client has this small little problem, straight away, I can fix that. And the only price that a client will pay, because you haven't explored this problem and the other problems, is a very small price. To get a big price for your services, you gotta explore problems. So let me rub this off. So what we do is when we find a potential problem, like communication with the clients, we talk about this problem and we go over all the things that it's, implicating. So they have a problem communicating with the client. Okay, we understand the problem. What's the implications of this problem? So are they losing sales? Are they spending a lot more time on the phone selling to these clients? Do they have people who would have bought more off them if they had understood exactly the value that this business had, and they'd seen all the different projects they'd done in the past, or they had seen how good their service was at helping other people? So what we're doing is taking the small problem and we're making it much bigger. Now, we're not exaggerating or lying. We're just exploring the problem and showing that it's not just the initial problem. There's a lot of knock-on things that this impacts. They're wasting time that they could have spent elsewhere explaining the same stuff to customers all the time. They're having people who don't even go ahead and contact the business because they didn't have the right communication on the website, and these potential customers were turned off and they went to someone else. They have people who would have bought at a higher price point, but because of the poor communication, they didn't spend that much. They didn't believe in the service or product as much. What we got to do is ask these sort of questions and get that information from the potential client. All right, so to visually show the difference between an inexperienced salesperson and why they can only charge so much, and an experienced salesperson and how they can charge so much, let's go over it. So the situational questions both people start off on. That doesn't really build a sale. It's not really getting you to a big amount because it's just factual questions about the business. Now you get into the problems. People who are inexperienced will ask some problem questions. So, hey, do you have a problem with this? Do you have a problem with that? And they'll build a little bit of a need with the client. It won't be too much, but the client understands they have some problems. They probably already knew they had those problems. So, the only way they're going to go ahead with that at this stage is if it's nice and cheap. Okay, let's fix those problems, whatever. What the experienced person does is, sure, they talk about the problems as well and they build it up. But not only the problems, they build up the implication of those problems. And now the problems seem way bigger, way more severe, way more serious. It's damaging the business. It's holding the business back. They didn't even realize this sort of stuff. And that is from asking good implication questions. It's not just the problem that, who cares about it that much? It's, whoa, this is the big problem. It's not just the broken contact form. It's us not looking professional. It's us losing potential leads. It's us not, having to fire staff because we didn't make enough revenue that we thought we would. All those different sort of things. And proper implication questions are going to draw these out. Now, there is more that we can do, and this is the next section, and this is the need payoff. Before we get into that and I, switch to my need payoff board, I want to talk about one thing. So far with these questions, it's been kind of negative. And what I mean by that is we're asking about problems, things that kind of suck with the business, that isn't going so well, it isn't nice for them, it's painful, it's stressful. This is stuff they want to get rid of. That's only one side of the equation. So if you think of your motivation in any situation for anything, there's things that you don't want and there's things that you do want. If I have a headache, I don't want to have a headache, but I'd like to feel good again. This is the positive side, the negative side. What we've done so far here is we've been talking mostly about the negative side of stuff, what's not going well with the business, what they want to get rid of. But we've missed all this positive motivation. What about the things that they do want to do, the areas that they would love to be having more success in? What does that look like? That brings us into our final sort of question, which is the need payoff questions. They're positive questions to build the other side of the motivation. So if you think of, hopefully this isn't getting too small, our little scales, give me a second. We're building up all the negative stuff that they want to get rid of, but hey, we can also build up some cool positive stuff as well and make this sale even more valuable, hopefully. So last sort of question, let's get into it. Need payoff questions. All right, we're getting there. We're on the last sort of questions. This is it, need payoff questions. So hopefully it's all making sense so far. If it is, if it isn't, leave me a comment below. Let me know the feedback. So what we've done so far is this. We've figured out the situation. This is okay, our starting point. We got that information. We jumped in and we found out some problems. So we found some stuff that, potentially we could resolve, that this is an area that our business or our product caters to. We didn't stop there. We looked at all the implications of those problems. We asked questions, we figured it out, we got in detail. What does that really mean with the problems? How is it impacting the business? Thing is though, this has all been kind of negative and we've missed out so far on another thing that we could be doing, which is the positive side of things. So what we do now is we take these problems, okay, bad communication with the client, and they know that it's damaging the business. They know that it's hurting stuff. Hopefully they're starting to feel like this is something that they want to fix. But why don't we, switch this around and also build it up the other way and talk about, hey, if you had perfect communication on the website for you, what would that look like and what would that mean for your business? And this is getting them to not only realize that they have a big problem, but to look into the future. What do they want? What's their goals? And basically what we're doing here is we're getting them to list the benefits of what we're going to sell them. Benefits are something that we can't come up with on a big sale. We have to get that information from the potential client. And by asking these sort of questions, that's how we get our benefits. It's a huge part of selling a high price service or product. So you got the problem, can't communicate with clients. The current website is just terrible at telling clients what it is that they do and how valuable they are. We've covered the negative side, positive side. Hey, if you're perfect communication, what's that going to mean for you? How would that change your business? What would you like to see from that sort of issue being fixed? It's going to mean our salesperson are having much better results. It's going to mean we attract the right sort of customers. It's going to mean the right sort of customers pay more money. It's going to mean we get more market share. It's going to mean we look more professional, more prestigious, so on. So we're getting them to list off the things on the positive side from all this other information that we have. And what we do is we go through the problems, look at the implications, and then we go, hey, if that was fixed, if that was better, if that was working correctly, what would that mean for your business? How would that impact your business positively? What would you like to see from that being resolved? And we build up all these benefits, and that is one of the final parts of the spin selling method. So what you've done is you've figured out the situation, you found some problems, the implication of those problems that's really helping to sell in a big way, that's meant to be a tick mark, but you've also built it up the other way where you've talked about all the positive benefits and value from resolving this issue. All right, we're on the home straight. Hopefully you're still with me. So what it looks like is this. We figured out the problems, but we didn't stop there because that isn't enough to make a high price sale. We focused on all the negative stuff, the implications, what's holding them back, the pain points, all the damage it's doing right now to the business. We also added in the positive stuff. What do they want to see in the future? What benefits would they want from an ideal solution? How is an ideal solution going to add value? What specifically do they like about the idea of getting this fixed? What do they want to see in something that they might potentially buy? We've done that all by asking spin questions. Hopefully we've built up the problem so big that they're now considering a worthwhile investment, something quite decently sized price-wise to get this thing fixed. Where we go from here, this is kind of where we exit spin. We go into the next stage of closing the sale that we talked about way back at the beginning. You're going to start talking about, what your solution does, what it's done in the past to help other people, how you're confident it's going to work, how you could price it, what it makes sense for these people, to pay, and hopefully you've built it up so that they agree with how you see things, and how you're going to get back that return on investment, how you're going to add value for them. You're basically giving back a lot of this information in the form of talking about your product, talking about your service. And the cool thing is, for sure that this is what is fact. You're not guessing this stuff. It didn't come off the top of your head. You took the time to ask these spin questions and really understand what's going on. And now you know how to effectively sell your service and price it down in that next stage. Hope this video, a little bit on the long side, I hope it's added a ton of value. I hope it helps you sell and move up to those higher ticket sales. Any questions, suggestions, feedback, just let me know. I got a couple of links below the video. Check those out. Thanks for watching.